Hey guys, welcome to the part 2 version of the Lightroom editing process here. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at more in depth of how I edited these pictures that I showed you guys in the last video. So my first shot here is my friend Michael. He's sitting in a chair and I am essentially just looking at the picture. First of all, it's the first thing you have to do when you're doing pictures in Lightroom, or if you're taking pictures in general. Consider what it is that you want. Look at the environment, look at the lighting, look at the colors, see if everything complements what it is that you want. So in this particular shot, I wanted him to look like he was in a room just chilling. I wasn't thinking about high fashion. I wasn't thinking about excessive light. I wanted it to look as natural as possible. What I did here essentially is I brought up the brightness a little bit because you kind of want to see how much information you have in the picture before you start working on it. If the picture was too dark, if I underexposed the picture, then I know I would have a harder time editing the picture. Either I would move on from that picture, come back to it later, or I would try and see if I could save it. And then here you see me taking the chair, the leg of there was actually a light stand next to him. I took the light stand leg out. It was just a bit of a distraction. And this shot wasn't actually the shot I was going to use for my final image. I just took some shots to check the light. I took some shots to see what it would look like, because sometimes you envision something even on paper, even if you have a written or drawn up version of it, but what you actually get in the end is something different. And so right now I'm going through different the colors and filters that I have within Lightroom. I'm using Visco Cam. I think it's a 2016 or 2006, the last version they released, and I'm looking to see which filter would best suit my mood. And I found a filter that looked pretty much similar to the original, just a bit more contrast. This next picture here, I'm working on these people walking down the street, and essentially I wanted it to look a bit more gruesome, a bit more, I wouldn't say airy, just a bit more gruesome, a bit darker than I actually shot it. And this was actually shot through the windshield of a car. And so my same friend Mike and myself, we were just driving through, and I saw these folks crossing the street. I said, hey, let me take a shot. Took the shot, picture came out great, and here we are working on it. So yeah, the original shot is pretty much, as you guys can see, it's pretty hazy, and that's because of the windshield. That's because of the sunlight. I was shooting more towards the sun. The sun wasn't exactly behind the subjects, but it was in that direction. And so first thing I did is I brought down the brightness to see how much details I have. Again, I fixed my cropping because, again, I wasn't using a zoom lens. I was using a fixed lens, and I wasn't able to move around on foot since we were driving. So I reframed the shot so I can get a better look of what I want. And I'm actually looking through my filters now to see which filter would be best suited for the look that I want. So this is more of a bluish color right here. It gives me more of a colder look, more of a gruesome look, a more less friendly and happy look. I wasn't looking for a friendly and happy look unless these two were smiling. And the picture is not necessarily dark. I just wanted that particular look for this particular image. That's why we did that. So I brought down the contrast a bit here. That's what this bar is here on the top right corner. That's the contrast, and above that is the actual temperature of the picture. Just like lighting has temperature, you have a 5600 kelvins. That's the warmth of the light or the coldness of the light. You have temperature when it also comes to your white balance, and that's where you see automatic white balance. When you go through your camera settings, you notice there's different types of white balance settings. Where you have a little bulb, another one you have like a fluorescent bulb, which is for fluorescent light, versus tungsten, and then you also have automatic white balance and sunlight, because all those have different temperatures. So this is the final look here. It's more of a greenish kind of a gritty look. I didn't want to have too much noise on that, so I believe I turned the noise off right here. Yeah. So this is basically part of my process. You know, you add a filter from Visco Cam, and you don't use everything from the filter. You try and do your own thing with the filter. You don't just take what they give you. And that's essentially what I did here. And I'm just kind of reframing the shot again to make sure I get the look that I want. And sometimes you play around with things in Lightroom, because sometimes you have a shot that doesn't make any sense the way you shot it, but when you move around the framing, or even if you change the orientation of the image, it looks better. So that's what I was working on right here. but I'm going to stick with the actual kind of a 16:9 type of image. Now I choose that because my style of photography is based on where I started with, which was with video. So a lot of my pictures kind of mimic the style of work I did before, which I still do video. I just have been had more of an emphasis on photography within the last couple of years. But that's all going to change very soon. So this next picture here is someone we just happened to run into while we were doing a photo shoot for Mike. And this lady was just walking her dog, and she started making some comments on photography. We started talking, and I took a picture. I asked her if I took a picture. She said sure. So again, I went for a cold look because she's an older person. If she was inside having a cup of tea or maybe eating a sandwich, I would kind of work on a more warm, friendly. And if she was looking dead into the camera and she was kind of sitting there looking really relaxed, the image would be more warm, in my opinion, because you're dealing with something that's more casual and joyful. Yeah, she's walking in the shot, but she's outside. I like the fact that she has some wrinkles, and that's kind of why I'm trying to make that stand out more than the actual scene. I'm trying to focus more on her age and the fact that it's kind of the winter of her life. She's getting up there in age, or she's pretty much an elderly person, and so I'm working more of a cold type of a look. I just don't want it to look too cold where she becomes more of a villain, or it's more of a morbid scene. I just wanted to have a bit of coldness to it with some warm skin tones in there still. And that's the look I was going for here. And if we just go to the next one, this picture was a bit of a challenge because I shot, again, as you guys can see, I shot with the sun behind Mike. Now, if you speak to a lot of photographies or a lot of photographers, you'll realize that they usually push you to shoot the sunlight facing your subject so that you can illuminate them as much as possible. In my instance, I actually wanted a bit of a light flare or lens flare in the shot, or a bit of a light burst in the shot to kind of, and that's why I had it more I didn't put it on the back side of him. I had made sure I had it in front of him. So it's like the light's shining over his head, more or less. That's kind of the look I was going for. But as I was working with this picture, there's a lot of noise on his face, even though this was shot with a moderate ISO. And it was also shot with excellent Canon glass, and I actually shot it in daylight. Let me just confirm the ISO settings for you guys here real quick. That particular image. Okay, so the settings on that shot, I'm just going back to my raw file here on the hard drive. Exposure was 1/2000 of a second, so it's pretty high. Making sure I get my blur out of there. And the actual, this was not a Canon lens actually. This was a Sigma Art lens. The ISO, I need to actually open it up in Photoshop. So what I did with this picture is, and this is something you guys will probably learn as you work with photos and things like that, I took it into a black and white mode because I wanted to see how much luminance I had. Now you can actually judge luminance in terms of, for every raw picture you've taken, you kind of have, you have a certain number of stops, especially if it was shot at night or if it was shot at the day. It kind of varies because a night shot will have less stops of light before it starts to fall apart, especially if you shoot at a high ISO. And the same thing with a day shot, it will have more stops of light because you have more available light. Even though the image was shot dark, you still have a lot of luminance in that image. It'll kind of make sense later as you guys start to work with raw pictures and you start to see how much information you can pull out of them. So I shot in black and white to see how much details and how clean the image would look without me actually looking at the color version. And I realized it was just about the same. I did see more contrast in his suit, and what I wanted to really work on, which is what we're supposed to be focusing on, is his face. So what I did is I went ahead and I just started to use the dodge and burn tool to brighten up his face a bit, and then I tried to play with the image to see if that would help balance out the dodge and burn, but overall the image was just not cooperating. So what I did is I did another colored version of the image, and I put it on top of the black and white version, and then I dialed it down a bit, meaning I took the opacity. I kind of put two images on top of each other. I stacked them, and then I turn the actual translucency down on the top image so you can see the one below it. So what I was actually doing for me was actually giving me the color I wanted from the top image and showing me some of the luminance that's on his face on the bottom image. And I just changed my blending mode. And your blending mode is essentially how the image is transferred from the top layer to the bottom layer. So for example, screen mode kind of just gives you a transparent, like you're looking through a screen basically. You can basically see the bottom image, but the top image is just lightly applied. Maybe I believe it's the color information is there, but you can still see the luminance and brightness from the image below. The key that we have to learn here in all of these images is what is the look that you're going for. Are you trying to create a more like a fantasy look, a stylistic look? Are you more focused on darks and lights? Are you more focused on color? So once you know that, then you begin to understand which filter works for you. And with me, it sort of just happens because I can't say there's a specific rule that I follow every time I look at a picture. I'll look at a picture and right away the ideas will come to me. Okay, this will look so great in black and white. This will look so good in color because of the mood that the picture itself has. And so I can give you specific rules right now that if someone's happy, then you should kind of stick to happy colors and happy tones. If someone is more looking depressed or serious, you can stick to a more serious or muted tones that are not so colorful or not so saturated, or not so vibrant. And again, if it's in between, you can play with a bit of the muted tones, but you can add some color to the skin, which is something we can focus on in another Lightroom tutorial. So hopefully this video gives you a good idea of what is all involved in the video editing, what's all involved in photo editing, and you guys can take that information and start to do your own image editing wherever you are, whether it be on a computer, whether it be in the camera, because camera, you can do some editing in camera as well, and you guys could just take it to the next level. So this is Carlin Cromwell here from Sewell Classes. Again, our photography and video work is now going to become combined into this channel, because what I want to focus on now is the fact that master the technical so that you can just focus on the creativity. That's it. So my channel is going to be focusing on how do you master these technical tools that are available to you, whether it be software, whether it be hardware. And that's why I'm teaching. That's why I'm calling it Sewell Classes, because you guys can learn a bit of not just my process, but the process that's practiced by so many other professionals in the industry and in the lives of the people around us. So till next time, guys, peace.